Hello everybody, welcome back at the WorldPort Hackathon 2016. My name is Dolf van Duivenbode, I'm your interviewer of today, and we have the host Kees Pieters, our guest and jury member.
Yes,
I agree.
That's true.
And you're here right in the middle, RDM.
Yes.
Centerpiece, the house.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
How does it feel for you to be here with the hackathon?
It's really great. I've been with the WorldPort Hackathon from the start, 3 years ago now, and it has evolved from something that we did in one of the education rooms at the other side to a really international hackathon. It's really great to have had that experience with Aeon.
And to have, we see people everywhere, we see them downstairs, we see them in the classrooms upstairs.
Yes, it's a great place to host this hackathon.
And you also are one of the challengers.
Yes, that's true.
What is your challenge?
I'm doing Disrupt the Port, which it basically is looking at new concepts that is going to really create the game changers in 50 years' time from now.
Game changers in 15 years' time. So what are we thinking of?
All you have to think is that basically the Port of Rotterdam is a historical infrastructure. It's been built up from medieval times, and a lot of the processes that you see happening there are basically the result of this history. But with this new technology and new concepts which are being thought up, we have to ask ourselves the question if these old mechanisms still apply today, and that's the challenges that we are looking for. The real game changers.
I heard people say it's because it's such an old industry, it can be conservative.
Yes.
As well. And I think that those can be the systems, but also maybe in people, because you're used to doing it your way and it attracts maybe a certain kind of people. What is the key element in changing that and being adaptive?
Well, if you ask any party in any commercial enterprise what their main reason for existence is, they will always say the customer. But when you delve below the stories, you will always see is that there is a very strong urge to improve their own existence in the chain. And if the customer is basically a side player in that mindset, the real game changers is when you actually get the customer back at the center of attention, and that's the disruptions that we are looking for.
And how can the hackathon contribute to that?
The hackathon can contribute to that by demonstrating how new technology actually creates new data, new information, which is currently often being guarded by the different parties, but that you often can bypass, let's say, these existing chains and create a new urgency in rethinking the commercial processes that are in place.
And what is in achieving that, what is the biggest obstacle, do you think?
Cooperation, which is of course one of the main goals of the hackathon, to promote open and sharing of data, sharing of information, sharing of expertise. This is a mindset change which is not, let's say, adopted everywhere at this moment.
No, and is it because I have heard that cooperation and it's difficult. Why do you think it is that difficult?
I think is that when you ask any person, that they will at a rational level understand why these changes are coming, but as long as there's no real urgency, in the end of the day, it's business as usual, and you go back to the normal routines that you're used to. And then suddenly there's a new player in the field. We've seen that with Uber, we've seen this with Tesla in automotive, and then suddenly, or Amazon in the beginning of the .com hype, and then suddenly everybody is aware that things have actually changed, and we want to play with this sense of urgency with the hackathon.
Interesting. And how can you make sure that this sense of urgency stays with us? Because as you describe it, it feels a bit like the motor, the fire which you run on. How can we save it?
One of the most strongest indicators is when you get a bunch of people together in 24 hours and they come up with an app that actually gets people to think, wow, it is already possible, then you've already achieved the sense of urgency, and this is what the people downstairs are contributing to, and we of course try to help them to really get to the places where it hurts.
And what has surprised you mostly in the past 20 hours?
Of course, the professional level. We've gone from basically student teams to really professional teams, really people who are well versed in the newest technology like blockchain, newest visions, and how quickly they come to understand the main processes in the domain that they are currently hacking for, the maritime sector, the logistic change. Usually a lot of these teams do not have that experience, but with the help of the experts you can really get them up to par in maybe 1 or 2 hours, and that they actually start to make something that catches the interest of the main players in this field.
Yeah. And it sounds so amazing that you would think we should do this every week, because there's a lot of energy and new thoughts coming up. But that's of course not possible to do it every week. No. But still, how can we in some way keep doing these kind of things? And
I think an annual hackathon is in itself a wonderful time slot. If you do things too often, it becomes normal, and so the sting gets out of the initiative. So I have no real problems with an annual event based on this. We have seen the growth in the past few years. We've seen the international interest, and these for me are the real indicators that we are really onto something. It's growing, it's getting stronger and stronger. The teams are becoming international. They are finding this hackathon, and I think that this is really the strongest indicator that the issues that we are addressing here are really, really relevant.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I just spoke to people from Romania, and they said that that's a big difference with other hackathons, that is so practical. They are actual challenges that have to be met.
Yes.
So I think that is a very big advancement.
Yes, I really also like the third theme, Disrupt the Port, that we introduced this year, because developing the apps is really cool and really great, but also to have conceptual thinkers, people who are actually able to envision the future port, to give them a spot to have the same kind of experience of hackathon is really, really great, a really great addition to the hackathon this year.
And can you maybe for a second be the hackathon participant yourself when you envision this future? How does it look? Take me there.
Well, I've got a few of my favorite pet projects that I always end up talking about. Of course, robotics and autonomy is going to be a big issue in the coming 50 years. A lot of technology is being developed to automate the port of the future. I always think it's very interesting that in the discussions and the dialogues that the human seems to be kind of a problematic factor in that. And of course in 50 years time we're still going to have a place over here where people work, where people live and recreate. And so how are we going to mix this in this little confined spot in this world with a lot of water, a delta area, with all these climate changes that are coming. So we're going to go to a very large transformations where technology eventually has to serve, let's say, that purpose of living, working in this area.
And still, despite all those changes, the human maybe stays the same. With all the difficulties we have and lack of trust and willingness or non-willingness to collaboration.
That will certainly always be a kind of restrictive force. But if you consider the changes that we have seen in the past 100 years, and even the ones that we are already experiencing in our lifetime, I also always very surprised in how easily we absorb these changes and find a new manner of dealing with that new situation that you're in. So I tend to be very optimistic in the end.
I just wanted to say, you seemed to me as a very optimistic man. even due to all the problems we maybe face regarding climate change. And
I always think is that if we are the cause of the problems, maybe we are also the solution.
let's conclude with that. Thank you very much, Kees,
You're
Pieters,
welcome.
and thank you for watching again, and see you in a minute.